And now I want to head over to Bobby Laurie, our travel expert. He is standing by here. Good morning to you, and thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. We appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Good morning.
Good morning. So I wanted to start off here saying Secretary Duffy mentioned it could take up to a week for full flight schedules to resume. What factors are contributing to this timeline? Is there a possibility this could take even longer?
Yeah, so, airlines were, of course, instructed by the FAA to reduce their capacity by up to 10%. And right now, just as that reporter said in Atlanta, we're stuck around at 6%. That's where it's frozen. So airlines were canceling flights about 4 to 5 days in advance to give those on those flights a chance to rebook themselves onto a new flight, a different airline, rent a car, take the bus or a train, any way possible to get to their destination. So since airlines were only canceling about 4 to 5 days in advance, that's why we're thinking that the airline industry should rebound in about that same period of time, because day 6 or 7, those flights have not yet been canceled.
I wanted to get to some viewer questions here, Bobby, because we do get a lot of them in here, and we've been asking throughout the morning. Now, some of these maybe we've already answered here, but let's see what this one is. This is from Donna N. She says, with 20 plus air traffic control agents retiring or resigning during the government shutdown and ATC students disenrolling from trading, where will Transportation Secretary Duffy source new air traffic controllers to replace them?
Yeah, this has been a problem since before the government shutdown. We were facing an air traffic controller shortage. So they've already got some hiring and employment processes in place to try to recruit some new air traffic controllers. There's a lot of training schools out there as well, some trade schools that help to get folks ready who are interested in this high stress job. But this is something that the government's been working on since before the government shutdown. And of course, now it's enhanced a bit more because of those retirements and those folks that quit. But this is something that's already in play.
A question I actually had is, how do the airlines work with the FAA to get these flight schedules kind of back up and running to normal speed as we are used to seeing pre-shutdown?
Yeah, of course. So in fact, the airlines were kind of left up to their own devices when it came to what flights they were going to be canceling. They were just instructed by the FAA to reduce their capacity, as I said, at this point, up to 6%. So what they're basically waiting for is the FAA and the Transportation Secretary to say, okay, you can start to resume your normal service. What I anticipate is it's not going to go from 6% down to 0. It's probably going to be a gradual incline back to what it used to be, just because we are getting those air traffic controllers coming back to work pretty slowly. So I think it's going to be a gradual increase back to what it was. But once the FAA gives the green light, the airlines are ready to go.
Now, this is a good question that we got in here from Tim saying, what can we do as the public to help streamline boarding processes?
This is like the age-old question, because you always get everyone's lining up at the gate before their group has even been called. Everyone's crowding around. You can't get through and they're calling your group. Every airline kind of has their own system in place. I mean, look, Southwest for a long period of time had open seating. You just lined up with your letter and your number, and now they're going to assign seats. Some airlines board from back to the front, from the front to the back, from the middle. Sometimes their elites go. Who knows, actually? I mean, at this point, I would say just stay where you are, stay seated until your group or number is called to get on the airplane. That'll reduce congestion by the gate area and then get you on your airplane faster.
And once again, this live look here at just all of our airport cameras. And I have to wonder, are there any long-term implications for the aviation industry from this shutdown, particularly concerning staffing and operational protocols? What can be learned from all this?
Yeah, that's a good point. It goes back to that question that we were asked before about air traffic controllers. The shutdown lasting for as long as it did caused some air traffic controllers that maybe would not have retired or quit to do so sooner than expected. So now we are going to be looking at an increased ATC shortage. So even though flights will be back to what they were pre-government shutdown, just because we're going to be back to that normal schedule doesn't mean that staffing levels in the air traffic control centers and towers is going to be where it should be. So I think what we've learned is during a government shutdown, we should really be looking at ways to make sure that the air traffic controllers are still paid in the future to avoid this from happening.
Now, a question I think that's on a lot of people's minds as the holiday season's coming up, Thanksgiving is next week already. What can people expect as they're heading to the airport if they got to travel?
Yeah, of course. So I've been reading a lot from the airline CEOs around the country. Everyone expects the industry to be back to where it should be for Thanksgiving week. I don't think anyone wants to own a travel mayhem week because of the shutdown or because the airlines couldn't get it back fast enough. So I think travelers should expect a full schedule back at full capacity. I'm assuming we're going to see the Transportation Department and the FAA having as much staffing as possible in the ATC centers and towers to reduce delays, because that's the other thing too. Even if the airlines are back to a full schedule, if there's a shortage of staff in the control centers or in the towers, then you're going to be looking at those tarmac delays. You're going to see folks sitting on the runway for an extended period of time before they take off, just because we're trying to make sure that everything remains safe with the staffing levels and the volume of the airplanes. But I think Thanksgiving week, barring any weather issues, because that's always going to throw in a variable there, I think we should be back to normal.
Well, we can hope, right? All right, Bobby Laurie, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Anytime. Thank you.
Stepping away for a commercial break on Live Now from Fox with that live look at several airports across the nation. We'll be right back.